Hello, everybody. In the previous episode, we discussed the inheritance cases, and today we will go deeper in tackling this important part in our series. Welcome back, Dr. Nasser, and you can start your presentation here.
Yeah, so last time we started with a falsification attempt, and we saw that if you understand the verses to mean to get these portions of the whole amount of the inheritance, then you will get a conflict or you get some inconsistency. But we saw also that Quran uses two different expressions. One refers to the whole, which is ma, al-ism al-mawsul, ma, and one which refers to part of it, which is min ma, a proposition before ma. So both
Which
we
denotes
saw
a portion of,
which denotes a portion of whatever is there. So either it uses the expression half or 1/4 of this and that, or a portion from this and that. And we saw also that the places where it uses the whole there are no cases which can contradict each other in these places. Why? Because they are mutually exclusive. They are mutually exclusive. For example, the husband inherits half of the exact whole if his wife didn't have children, and the children inherit 2/3 of the whole only in the case they will get 2/3 of the whole. So in this case, the husband will not be able to take his half. So either the husband takes the half or the children takes 2/3. Yeah. And this is a place where the ma was used or the whole was used. So failing this falsification, we go over to see what the model, what is the mathematical model behind all these inheritance cases. Like, for example, this is a relatively complicated inheritance case. A woman dies, leaving her husband, a son, and 3 daughters. She also leaves 1/8 and 1/7 of her estate to a stranger. So according to the law in Surah 4, verses from 7 to 12, the husband receives 1/4 of the estate. The son receives double the share of a daughter. But this division is made only after the legacy to the stranger has been paid. Now, the question is, what is the mathematical model with which I can share this inheritance? So Muslims, of course, as known, invented algebra. The one who invented algebra was Al-Khwarizmi. And he did this after approximately 100 years of Muslims and fuqaha and the scientists solving inheritance equations in a way which is pre-algebraic. Now, in this case, you see that you need to, here is the result. The stranger gets 300 parts of 1,120 parts of the legacy. The husband gets, so you will divide the legacy in parts, and of course you will use for in shares or parts, and you will use for this division the variables. So the idea of a variable was is a very important idea, and it's an idea which was actually in Indian culture and so on, but it was not explicitly used in algebra except by Al-Khwarizmi. So Al-Khwarizmi brought the idea of a variable, and he will express in that case in linear equation, as you say, this problem. So the stranger gets x multiplied by 1/7 plus 1/8, which makes it 15x divided by 56. This leaves x times 1 minus 15 divided by 56, which is 41x divided by 56 to be divided between the family. And you will solve the equation and you will get at the end the portions which are indicated. So this is here, as you see, I'm using X, I'm using linear algebra for the first time ever done by Al-Khwarizmi. And actually, the way he uses this algebra is he actually invented two sciences, not only one science. Of course, when we say he invented algebra, although there were other studies before him, but the first time, for the first time ever, a scientist made it formal, made whatever algebra was made formal by him. He studied actually six types of equations, yeah, and he studied them systematically, and he used them to solve inheritance, but also he used them to solve geometric problems. Yeah? So this is why they consider him to be the inventor of algebra. Now, the way to solve itself, the way to divide the problem like this in shares and to put these equations as a stranger gets so and so, and this leaves so and so, this way is called algorithm. So actually he invented two sciences in the same time.
Named after
The
him,
way
Al-Khwarizmi.
the systematic and formal way to solve a certain problem is called an algorithm after him, because he was the first one to say, let us solve the problem of inheritance in this way, 1, 2, 3. So this 1, 2, 3 is called algorithm. And usage of linear equations and equations in general, linear and also quadratic equations, is algebra. So we actually invented two sciences in the same time. Now, of course, this, after what we saw last time and our attempt to falsify, so we attempted to falsify, we couldn't. This means that this is very serious stuff. The invention of algebra makes it much more serious, because now we can say that this algebra actually solves any problem of inheritance. So there is here also the aspect of generalization. We have now a mathematical model which solves any inheritance problem. Now the question, of course, what was done in the golden age is what Al-Khwarizmi did. Yeah. The question we are discussing here is not whether Al-Khwarizmi was in golden age. We are discussing whether the ayah was in golden age. Of course, the ayah came the ayah came 150 years before.
No,
more, yeah. Anyhow, so the question of golden age comes here again. How could such an ayah be written in Quran, which requires you to invent a science? So you actually invented a science, yeah, to solve it. Now, so the first problem I have, when were those verses allegedly written? First fact is, to solve inheritance problems accurately, Muslims invented algebra, as we just saw. The idea of a variable, especially, they used the idea of a variable. Fact is also that Muslims solve such problem until now without using variables. See what we just discussed, what you also read in your own specialization. Al-Awl method. Yeah, the Al-Awl method is an old method developed by Fiqh schools before the invention of algebra. So actually, we have here two different methods. One which was invented by Al-Khwarizmi, and one.
We can translate Al-Awl here deficit in distribution.
Yeah. Anyhow, whatever we translated, we have an evolution of the solution methods. So there is an evolution of solution methods, and even before Al-Awl, was, like we are going to see now, Al-Awl was in the time of, it started in the time of Sayyidina Umar, radiallahu anhu. But before that, as we just also discussed, Ibn Abbas, for example, was against it. Before that, they didn't come up even with this Al-Awl method. So there is Al-Awl method and there is the algebraic method. So there is something like an evolution of the solution methods, and this is only possible if the problem existed before all this. You cannot have solution methods before you have the problem. You should have the problem before you have the solution method.
So this refutes.
Actually, this is a very clear
your
indication
teacher.
that Quran. This is here a very clear indication that Quran can never have been done, for example, in the time of Sayyidina Umar. Yeah? Because you will not have the solution before you have the problem. So this is actually also another very strong evidence that putting the time of the Quran in its right time, because we know about Umar and the Sahaba and this Awl method. We know about it from evidence. We know that they discussed it. They have written it in books. They couldn't have invented it just to say that Quran was before. They couldn't have invented it. It was a serious problem, and it is a serious problem because it has to do with money and so on. Yeah. There is Adhan here. Yeah. So so here again, it is here very clear that any hypothesis putting Quran in golden age will will be very inconsistent in that case with all this. You cannot have invented algebra in the same time where you are writing Quran. You cannot. Why? Because you invented algebra to model Quran in the right way, and they wanted to solve this 100 years before in a different way. So they were trying 100 years to model Quran in a way, and then you came in the golden age and you put the algebraic solution. Yeah? So you couldn't have written anything in the golden age related even to Quran, because Quran posed the problem for which you did the algebra. You invented algebra as a solution for what Quran posed. Yeah. So you couldn't have in the same time wrote both. It's absurd. It's really, and I don't see how people can, Westerns or non-Westerns, even start to discuss the hypothesis that Quran was written in the golden age. It's just hilarious. Maybe because they are only concentrating on the way of expression and not on the content, of course. Maybe they don't. It is really absurd that you find decent people and people with intellect.
It's naive as well.
To discuss something like this, where you can just with 3 ayah, like the ayahs of Miras, show that it is impossible that Quran could have been written in the golden age. Why? Because in the golden age, the solution
what historians
Quran
call
was put.
Anachronistic.
And also to put the solution of such a serious problem like inheritance. And inheritance is not a theoretical problem. It's money, and it's
social problem, and
it's social problem. So people definitely were inheriting from each other for 100 years. They are still until now using the al-awl method. Until now, as you know, until now they are using al-awl method. So there is a clear evolution of the solution. Now I have also another problem here, that Quran came up with a law. So the first problem is it cannot have been written, of course, neither in the golden age, neither in the age of al-awl method. It must have been written before. Now the second problem is the following. Quran came up with a law which can only be applied accurately if a new mathematical method not known before is developed. Because both of them, al-awl method is new. No one uses al-awl method except Muslims. And algebra is new.
And this means that the Quran was a catalyst for
of course, but this is only a side effect. But this poses a series, the following series. Remember, we are still in the model that some man wrote this Quran or a collection of people. So did the alleged author or authors of Quran know this? Did they know that they can solve the inheritance problem only if they invent new methods? If yes, why were these methods even developed? If I put I'm not putting to my followers a riddle. Did I put to my followers a riddle? I'm not putting a puzzle or a riddle. The Quran is not about putting it. No one puts in a religious book a riddle and leaves this to the followers to solve it. And this is, by the way, also not, as we said, it's not a theoretical question. It's a question which poses a very big financial burden on people, or vice versa. They are really in their social life very in very important parts.
And it has to
Financial
do with social
as
justice as well. Yeah.
yeah. So you cannot let's assuming that Sayyidina Muhammad is the author, or anyone else. Did the author know that these equations will only be solved by inventing new mathematical method or methods, not only one, methods? If yes, so this means he has this method. Why didn't he tell it to the people? Yeah. And why in the first place did he do such a very elaborate thing to illiterate people? Yeah. If he didn't know, yeah, so how can such author guarantee the existence of a solution at all? As we said, if he had used, instead of if he had used in the verse all the time ma, the whole, it would have been inconsistent. But he used once ma, he used once mimma, so whoever is behind Quran, we know that it's we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knew that there is going to be methods which has to be developed. Yeah.
And in other places,
a normal author, a human author will never do something like this, to put something where he is not something financial even. Yeah, he put something financial. Now, a comparison with what we have today is interesting, because this inheritance policy is nowhere else. It is not in France, not in Germany, not in any Western so-called developed country, not in China, nowhere. Nowhere on earth there is this scheme of inheritance. In Western countries, in so-called modern countries, if someone dies, if he has a will, then the will be executed, whoever is there. If he doesn't have a will, they will find the first relative, and that's it. So to put such a very elaborate scheme of inheritance, you need to be knowing what you do. And we saw from the Arabic expressions that there is no contradiction. So the question is, how can this be a normal author who will write something which needs to many scientific methods to be developed, one after the other, an evolution of scientific methods? So this is here again a contradiction. Now,
but I have a comment here that the Quran, as well in other parts in the Quran, it encouraged the believers to know the kind of calculation and mathematics.
Actually, he is here not only encouraging, Ahmed, he is forcing.
Now, as a catalyst.
There is a difference between, look, why did even Imam Khawarizmi do this? To solve these problems? We will see. Let us see now. We will go back now to the study, how to the discussion, the epistemological discussion. What did we do just now? We tried a falsification attempt and it failed, but we tried it. We attempted a falsification and it didn't work. So this means we need to take this seriously. So we made a model. Now there is a model before Omar, which is the model of Ibn Abbas, which we were discussing before this lecture. Now the model before Omar had no or very small inheritance cases, because the Muslims were very small before. They were very few. So the inheritance cases before Omar didn't come with this contradiction of owl, the complication of owl. So that Ibn Abbas himself was against using the method, what I call model of Omar. Yeah, I call model before Umar what Ibn Abbas is referring to, and I call model of Umar what Ibn Abbas refused. So Ibn Abbas refused. He said, just take whoever comes first in the ayah, you will give him his portion, and so on. But of course, there is a reason why all the Sahaba were against this, because at the end, I give you an example. Suppose there is a husband and two sisters. Yeah, a woman died, and then there is a husband and two sisters. So the husband will take half, and the two sisters will take 2/3. Yeah. So if I prioritize the husband first, the sisters will take half, not 2/3. The difference between half and 2/3 is big, actually. This is why the Sahaba said, let us make the equations, or let us do mathematics so that this distribution is balanced while preserving in the same time the portions. So we'll preserve the portions, but the distribution will remain balanced in a way or another. The best what we can do. So it's actually approximation. So we are trying to approximate. Now, from the scientific point of view, they use the ma and the mimma very clearly to say, if Allah says ma in only 3 times and mimma in 5 times, and if he's actually telling us that ma and mimma are the same. You could do this as if it is either the whole or part of the whole. So that there's no contradiction. So actually what they said, they didn't go in deep in saying, let's take the ma aside and the mimma aside. This is why you don't find it. You don't find it in
So
the
they didn't
books.
differentiate between ma and mimma.
Because they said from the beginning, everything is like mimma. Yeah, we will try to do the ma, but it might be mimma. We will try to do the whole, but we could also land in doing, especially in our questions, we could land also in doing mimma, part of the whole. So this is why they all were against Ibn Abbas, because evidently this, first of all, it doesn't contradict with Quran. What Ibn Abbas method is also doesn't contradict with Quran. So here you see at least 2 models which doesn't contradict with Quran. Yeah. Yani Ibn Abbas, if he says, let us take the first and then the next and so on, he doesn't contradict Quran.
From a linguistic perspective, yeah.
Yes, of course, he doesn't contradict Quran. But the Sahaba will say, okay, our model also doesn't contradict Quran, but our model is gives them like it distributes the losses.
So now we want to understand
both models. Now this is
algebra
interesting. Both models. Just one moment. Now, because this is a very fundamental question, also from the epistemological point of view. We have here the Quran, the Quranic verse. We don't have one interpretation which everybody will. If someone tells you, I take Ibn Abbas' way to divide the miras, Ibn Abbas himself did it in the time of Sahaba, so it is legal. You could do it. You could say, I will take Ibn Abbas. Of course, most of the people now,
by way of imitation, but what's the evidence in the Quran?
Yeah, it doesn't. There is Ahmed, there is a difference between when you say what is the evidence of Quran. I will tell you there is no contradiction with Quran. It's evidence. When I do a model, the only thing which lets me, a model of anything, by the way, if I do a model of anything, this model, for example, I do a model for mathematics. Yeah, so I have a certain axioms of mathematics, hypothesis of mathematics, and I do for them a model. If my model doesn't contradict, then it is a valid model. So it's not what is the evidence from Quran. No, the question is, does it contradict Quran? If it doesn't contradict Quran, then it is a model. It is a model. You cannot say, therefore Ibn Abbas was eligible. Yeah, because he said, I understand this from Quran. It doesn't contradict Quran. If he had said the husband will take 1/4 instead of half, or for example, that the female will take like the male in case they are both brother and sister, in that case, he will contradict Quran. But if the model doesn't contradict, then this is an acceptable model. Now, this is a very important epistemological idea. We don't need to find evidence for, otherwise we are positivist. If you say, I want to find evidence for every single idea, it's, first of all, it is impossible. Secondly, it is not what we call epistemological model of whatever you are saying. If your model doesn't contradict the axioms, then it is a valid model. So Ibn Abbas made a model before Umar that he will take one after the other. Now the Sahaba came and said, this will make, like in the case of a husband and two sisters, the burden will be taken by the sisters, which is not good. Let's make a model which also doesn't contradict Quran. So both of them, while they are not contradicting Quran, they are eligible. This is why I can be Hanafi and you can be Shafi'i and the third can be Maliki, because it is not contradicting. It is not contradicting.
Are equally valid.
It is so because it is not contradicting, it is equally valid. And when we go over to the algebraic model, this is exactly what happened with Al-Khwarizmi's model. Al-Khwarizmi's model, now the question which I have today, because Muslims today are still using the model of Omar. It's unbelievable. As you know, I mean, we know, you know, I know, everyone knows that they are using the model of Omar today.
Would you show us an example with the algebraic model to show us the difference?
No, I showed you already. I showed you in the last page.
Where
you have the X and so on, yeah. But the other is so elaborate and so complicated. I will not go into it. Everybody knows how you can see some YouTube videos. They explain to you how they do. They don't use variables at all. They use only numbers and jungle between the numbers. Take this number, put it here and put it there without using the X, which is unbelievable from my point of view. Because, of course, the model of Omar was 634 AD, and 800 AD was the algebraic model. And of course, we are now 2000 AD, 2025 AD, and still we are in the we didn't use the Al-Khwarizmi model for this.
But if we use I have a question. If we use the model of Al-Khwarizmi, so will it show us that which model is it goes with the model of Umar or the model of Ibn Abbas? Or
no, of course, no. Yeah, the model of Al-Khwarizmi is, of course, referring to the model of Umar, not Ibn Abbas, of course. Of course, using equations, you could also model, I mean, okay, good. Algebra can model anything, actually. Let us, maybe this is wrong what I just said. Algebra can model both. With algebra, the algebraic model, you can do the model of Omar and you can do the model before Omar. But when Al-Khwarizmi wrote his book, he was referring to the model of Omar, not for Ibn Abbas. Because Ibn Abbas is straightforward. You don't have an elaborate thing for it. But while this model of Omar will bring with it complications which you should better use variables to solve. You should use and equations to solve. Yeah.
Okay.
So now there is one thing here to be said. While the model of Ibn Abbas is a direct linguistic model, you could say it is a linguistic model because it takes the ayah as in the sequence. It's very straightforward. It has very low mathematics. Mathematics doesn't play a big role. It's a very basic mathematics. The model of Omar is much more complicated. It's not only linguistic. Actually, it's not linguistic at all. It is a mathematical but pre-algebraic model. So the model Muslims, unfortunately, are still using today is still a pre-algebraic model. Now, what is the problem with any pre-mathematical thing?
Yeah, this is an important question.
That you don't have a proof that it is right.
Oh.
This is a catastrophe from my point of view. from my humble point of view, now this is my personal
Yeah,
point
so
of
we
view.
cannot verify that the equation is correct or the solution is
No,
correct.
it is correct in all. Now, okay, there is no proof. Let us say there is no proof that it is correct. You cannot prove that it is correct. Yeah?
Without the
But
algebraic
it
model.
is correct. But it is correct. Why? Because it has only, fortunately, we have only finite cases. We don't have infinite number of cases. We have only, I mean, the core cases for mirath are not infinite in number. The core, the most important cases in mirath are finite. And the people studied them. So they have something like tables of mirath.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have
I know. Yeah.
mirath. So from this point of view, it's okay. We can use it. We are relatively sure, but there is no proof that it will always work. There is no proof. There is no mathematical proof, let us say. There is no mathematical, because mathematics is not really used. Pre-mathematics is used. Of course, the algebraic model in itself is a proof. And the equation is a proof in itself. If the equation reflects your case, then you have a proof, alas, because it is the linear equations and quadratic equations. If they really are representing your problem in themselves, they are proofs, and you can show that they will work for all cases. Yeah.
So can we invent a software or a program that
But
solves?
of course, they invented. I don't know. I don't know what they did. But for me, I was shocked, and it was recently only that, as you know, that I knew that they don't use Al-Khwarizmi. It's a
No,
big,
no, no.
big
I
shock
mean, I
for
mean
me.
that can we develop? Is it
They
possible
have already developed. They have already developed.
to
There
prove?
are a lot of Mirath, many companies. This is one of the most important.
According to the algebraic
Actually,
model.
I don't know. Here I cannot help you because
Ah,
I don't know. But Muslims today, they still are in all over the world in Kulliyat Sharia, in the faculties of Sharia. As you yourself, you know, you
yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
you took it, but without this algebraic model.
yeah.
Now, so let's go back to epistemology and find out what this inheritance case showed us. First of all, our experiments are the inheritance cases. So in the beginning, because there are not so many inheritance cases, the model before Omar, the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, it was okay. Why? Because the number of experiments were not so big. But then when Islam expanded, inheritance cases became more. They
Complicated.
needed
Yeah.
again, exactly. They needed to develop the model
Mm,
of Omar.
mm.
And ultimately, they needed to have the algebraic model. So the experiments are here inheritance cases. So actually, our experiments were the reason why we developed new models. Why
Mm.
did Muslims
For a
develop
practical reason. Yeah.
it's actually an experimental reason.
Experiment. Yeah.
I can say an inheritance case is an experiment. I mean, you
Mm,
can
mm.
define formally, you can define inheritance case as an experiment. And then there is, so the first thing is the experiment. You experiment with your model and you find out, oh, it doesn't cover this case or that case. So you need to develop. Now you generalize also using math. So when they developed the model of Omar, the model of Omar, although it is pre-mathematics, but it has a certain scheme. It's not anything. You do some it's actually algorithmic. It is algorithmic before the invention of algorithm, because
Mm.
of course the invention of algorithm came with the algebra. But you could explain the model of Omar in terms of an algorithm. And maybe this answers your question. A company can take, of course, the model of Omar and make out of it an algorithm. Why? Because it is a systematic method. First, you do a table, and then you take the first number in the table, put it in the second row, and so on. So this is an algorithm. So actually, this model of Omar is algorithmic, but not algebraic.
Mm.
And the method of Al-Khwarizmi is both algorithmic and algebraic. Yeah.
Mm.
And third is falsification, which we attempted in the beginning. So at the end, what do we have? Fiqh is, or here fiqh looks really as an empirical science per excellence. Very clear is here the empirical side of fiqh, because first of all, you had the theory which comes from Quran, and then you have many inheritance cases. Of course, in the Quran, we don't call it theory, it's a phenomenon. The phenomenon in the Quran, I model it using a first very primitive model, and then there are many experiments. It makes me change my model, and then more and more experiments makes me, and more precision makes me change until we reach the algorithmic model. So here, fiqh is very clearly shown as an empirical science. It has falsification. We could have falsified. Again, if the ayah would have used only ma, not ma, there would have been a mistake, of course. If I say he will take half, and also the others will take 2/3, then of course this will not come to be one. But he says for this case he uses ma, for the other case he uses mimma. So you have flexibility in your mathematical way of solving it. So now the last thing here is, what are the formal tools we are using? It's Arabic language, as we saw, the difference between ma and bimma. Let us investigate, and also math, of course, very primitive math, which has been developed into a full-fledged algebraic model. So coming back to our materialistic idea of a literate author. So Sayyidina Muhammad والسلام, to be a literate author of Quran, we have the following problems. He needs to have been brilliant in math, physics as well, math and physics. If he had written all this, he need to be brilliant in both math and physics, not only in math. He needs long preparations for the scientific material. Suppose Muhammad, whenever he was and wherever he was, if they say he was not in Mecca, he was in Dubai. Yeah, maybe some brilliant guy will say he was in Dubai. Yeah, maybe they find something in Dubai and they say Muhammad was in Dubai.
To this point, I think we have to conclude here, unfortunately, because the time is running out. So we can stop here and to continue in the next episode, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Elnasser, very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just